The Human Founder Podcast by Gali Bloch-Liran.
Hi, I'm Gali Bloch-Liran and welcome to The Human Founder, the podcast where we speak about the mental aspects of the entrepreneurial journey. Entrepreneurs often describe the emotional roller coaster that is embedded in being an entrepreneur or investor, where you experience the lowest of lows, such as when you find yourself at the age of 30 with no meaningful relationship, no job, being rejected interview after interview. And the highest of highs when you come to an ordinary university event and create a leap in your career, being invited to teach in a university in Hong Kong. And it's from that place of uncertainty, the need to constantly self-manage ourselves, keep up our energy and be mentally resilient in order to deal with everything. Well, it's not easy. In each episode, I will be talking to entrepreneurs, investors, psychologists, being their sounding board, with the goal of creating a space for this less spoken about layer, which is the mental aspects accompanying the entrepreneurial journey. I will also share tips and tricks to help boost your focus, clarity, and mental resilience. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Keren Tsuk, Dr. Keren Tsuk. Hey, Keren, it's really, really great to have you here with me.
My pleasure being here.
Speak up, Keren, so that all the audience will hear you.
Okay.
Good. Let me introduce you. Keren, you're a keynote speaker, consultant, and thought leader in the 21st century leadership, as well as the author of the book Mindfully Wise Leadership. You founded the consultancy Wisdom to Lead, which specializes in the development of senior management teams and corporate leaders, and you help companies and teams to reach their full potential using mindfulness techniques. And today we're actually gonna talk all about mindfulness and how can we implement mindfulness techniques through communication, leadership, the way we evolve in the companies and even in our day-to-day life. So hi again, and I'm really happy to have you here with me.
Me too. Looking forward.
Take us to the age of 30. What did you feel then? And how you overcome and made this leap from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs, and then we'll continue.
So I remember being nearly 30, not really 30. And, you know, I was in a path in my life that I didn't have meaningful relationships. And as you said, a romantic relationship.
It can also be relationships.
No,
depends, what you choose.
Actually, I have had a lot of meaningful friendships there. And this was actually my sounding board. So this is also one of my lessons there and then I was searching for a job and I was rejected interview after interview. And, you know, I remember that my father in this time sent me a script from a book, The Joy of the Happiness of Life, of Spiritual Keys for Happiness in Life. And I read it, and then I understood, you know, in this path in my life, I learned that, first of all, love exists everywhere, not only in romantic love, right? Because I really had great friends that were I really felt loved and loved them and were really meaningful. And the second thing, I also learned to love myself unconditionally, regardless of what I'm doing, of my job description, of what I have in life. I connected to myself then and learned to love myself and accept myself from who am I. I am. So this was my present in this time, in this challenging times, you know.
Thanks for sharing it. And you're talking about two really meaningful learnings that usually takes us many, many years to understand it through, analyzing what happens in the past, retrospective, etc. And these are very main it takes to love, to understand, first of all, that love is existing everywhere and not necessarily just in a romantic relationship, and to love ourselves in any situation. And that helps us to be more compassionate to ourselves and also to our surroundings. So from that place and understanding this, how did you actually started to come out from the situation that you were in? That is a difficult one. You know what? A second before we'll get to how you came out of this. Being on the job hunt is something that takes a lot of resources from the candidates.
But what I learned from this phase in my life that I was going to places that I really didn't really want them. I was rejected because I didn't want them. And it was part of the journey to figure out what I want and to fine-tune my path and my way. And this is actually what I'm offering my managers that I work with, or people or individuals. Dare to take the time and explore, meet people, talk with them, share with them what your passion, and find what resonates within you, and then search for what you want. So it's kind of a process. I did like this. And at the end of the day, actually, I got my dream job then. It was like working then in Pilat,
The days.
Yeah.
The dream job.
Yes, it was like far ago. But, being an organization consultant there, so I was really happy with what I got. But I did need to have patience during the path.
What is it that stops us and stop managers and stop executives and stops also new employees and new people that comes into the workforce to dare to hit a pause and really search what's good for them? What do you think is stopping us from doing it?
Survival mode, We are connected to the fear that we won't have enough, won't have enough money, won't have enough options, opportunities. So we're reconstructing ourselves, and we don't really adopt a beginner's mind. We don't give ourselves time to explore, to really connect to what we want, not what our parents want, our partners want, our siblings, our kids, or whoever. I think this is part of being mindful, to dare to listen deeply to our passions, to our needs, and to act upon them. And we usually run after our tails. We're not in a mindful mode. We're not in a deep listening mode. And it's scary because we don't like to be in the uncertain, but this is the new reality we need to adopt, right? To manage ourselves in these uncertain times.
I totally agree with you. And this survival mode, before we speak about how to come out of it, where is it coming from? What do you think? It's like us being a second, third generation to the Holocaust, or as Jews, as Israelis, or it's us, living here in Israel, which is also something that supports our survival mode, or it's something in our abundance perception. Where is it coming from? This survival?
I think from the fact that we are human beings, and our brain is required to guard us, right, to survive us. So if I see a boss who shouts at me or a tiger in the field, it's the same for my brain, and I will be in the survival mode. And this is actually the reality, that we need to move from the survival mode to the thriving mode, and to dare to explore and to be in the uncertain and to enable space. So our brain, we are acquired this way, and we need to change it to get our automatic behaviors. And this is our challenge.
And very, very much challenge. So before we'll dive deeper into how doing it, so you were in this situation in the age of 30, and then you got this opportunity, and then what happened?
What happened? I started this job that I really loved. I was really happy with it. And then I met also my spouse for life now. We met also in the age of 30. It was till the age of 27, I was always in relationships. And then I decided that I don't know myself alone. And I decided that I'm going to be alone now and take an apartment that I will fill it with myself. Kind of getting to know myself, to be intimate with myself, because I didn't know is Keren without a partner. So it's like 3 years that I was really not always easy, but years that I was connected to myself. And then when I was deeply connected and was ready, I met my partner in a really serendipity way.
So two things about it. First of all, we sometimes need to take the space in order to get to where we want. But the other thing is also, when we have spouses, and married, not married, doesn't matter, it's very important to also find a space within the relationship, because that's what helps us maintain and remain the relationship. If we allow each other to grow in her way, and to understand that we have something together, but also that every one of us has his own path that he wants to evolve in. And this, you said it very beautifully. I wanted to fill the apartment with myself. So we also need maybe not apartment because we have children later on and relationships, but to feel a small part of it, or something which we feel that it's ours, and it's ours to develop in. It can be in our career, in our hobbies, in our cooking, in whatever, but to find something which is only ours.
That's right. You know, you're talking about partnership, and it also goes to co-founders, right? When we work with a co-founder, it's like a marriage. It's not different, right? Each and every one has his viewpoint, his motivations, his purpose. And I think the secret is to give place to each and every one, and then we can create something complete from the differences between us. Because if we push away one of the person, the individuals, he won't stay there. Maybe he will be there, but he will be emotionally setback. He won't be there and won't bring his full potential and create something great. So I think each and every one of us need to learn to create space for themselves and for the other in this partnership. It can be in business or in home with a loved one.
Definitely. So you mentioned we need to move from a survival mode, which is very, as you said, human and something that comes also from nature, you know, how we respond to a danger. This is something very, very basic in the way our mind works, into a thriving mode. And it can be a very nice title, but a little bit more complex mindset and idea to really develop. And one of the terms that I really like in this context is that we all, and especially founders of startups and people that work in tech, is that we all now live in a Vuca world. And that part of what we need to embrace is how we lead in a Vuca situation. Vuca stands for, it's a phrase that was established in the US Army back in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And it stands for Vuca for to being in a volatile environment, and the U for being in uncertain environment, and the C for a complex situation environment, and the A for feeling ambiguity in everything that happens. And it's really how we navigate within this complexity and ambiguity and the volatile and uncertain situations, and learn how to be bold and proactive and agile and mindful. So I'll be happy to dive deep a little bit into it. And if we can focus now about mindfulness in two phases. In the first one, widen our knowledge about mindfulness, what it means, how do we do it, where is it coming from, how can we use it in our day-to-day life. And then the second part, how do you actually see it coming to the mindful leadership that we like to talk about.
Great.
Sounds good?
Amazing.
Good.
I love the question. So let's start with the fact that, as I see it, the way to lead nowadays is by self-management. What does it mean, self-management? Managing our internal world, okay? Our thoughts, our emotions, process that we are going through. So we need to first, our time, right? So it's like leading by example. Whatever you want from your employees or colleagues, you need to start with yourself. And the foundation for self-management, as I see it, is the mindfulness. So now let's elaborate what does it mean in mindfulness, okay? So the classical definition of mindfulness of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn is the ability to be intentionally present here and now, not judgmentally, and intentionally. Okay, it's like when I'm sitting with you, I'm really being present with you, not in my wandering mind. I'm fully here with my mind, with my heart, and with my body, okay? So it's being present in the moment. The definition that I give mindfulness is like a little bit of consciousness. It's the ability to be aware of an experience that we are going through. It can be a thought that runs in my mind, an emotion that I'm feeling right now, a process that I'm going through in a non-judgmental way, but also without being managed by it. And this is the critical thing. So what does it mean? First of all, you talked about the Vuca reality, and yes, it's the new normal. We live in uncertain times, right? Complex time. First of all, it arises a lot of uncertain feelings within ourselves, right? Anxiety, stress, burden. So how we can manage these feelings, connect to them, and be, instead of being managed by them, manage them. And another example I want to give you that I really love giving it, because I think it's really make it clear, this example, about myself when I experienced it. One of my business trips to Hong Kong, I was with a colleague, and I had a really intensive trip. I also taught the 10 hours in the course in Hong Kong, and also we had a presentation to deliver for a potential client that we wanted to succeed, right? And we had 2 hours to create this presentation, and we started creating it, and I asked my colleague something really naive about the setting of the meeting. And as I asked him, he lost it and talked to me in a really unpleasant manner. And I was really was offended in the moment, but at the same time, I didn't understand what happened there because I only asked something about the meeting. And in this moment, we both of us were smart. We said, okay, let's meet in an hour. Mm-hmm. And as I sat back from the situation, I took a deep breath beyond the unpleasant feeling that I felt and trying to understand, to figure out what happened there. And then it came to me. It came to me that when I'm stressed out, I like to ask questions to feel in control, okay? And then I understood that he also was stressed. But when he's stressed, he take it all in, and what's happening there, like a volcano, right? The stressed man in gym, and he was interrupted like a volcano, erupted. And then I had a free choice. I decided, okay, we have already 1 hour to deliver the presentation and we want to succeed. So I decided to be professional and not starting to coordinate expectation now because he can't handle it right now. It's not, won't have an effective results. So we'll do what we need to do. And after the presentation, when we'll have the capacity, we'll sit and speak about how we act toward each other, what's important to each other, and coordinate our expectations. And actually, this is what we had. So we also succeeded with the client. And afterward, we had a really difficult conversation. But at the end of the day, in the paradoxical way, it increased the trust between us because we really talked about what's bothering each one of us. So as Viktor Frankl defined mindfulness, he defines mindfulness as the space between the stimulation and the response. As we broaden the space, we have a free choice to choose our behavior. And for me, this is actually a mindfulness mindset. It's the ability to be connected to our own experience. And this is something really important to say. It's not that I disconnected from my feeling and continued business as usual for my mind. No, I was connected completely to my whole experience, to my unpleasant feelings, but instead being managed upon my unpleasant feeling and shouting back and not achieving the goals that we want. I managed my feeling. So, and I think really mindfulness is crucial for nowadays because I think actually the ability as human beings, we need to connect to our complete selves and to our traits that connected to our heart, like compassion, passion, creativity, right? This is what will differentiate us from the machines, the AI. And mindfulness helps us do it because it helps us to connect, but broaden the space, and instead of being automatically reactive, choose how we want to act with it.
So you described it beautifully, and a few thoughts that came to my mind while I was very much present and listening to you. First of all, there are many, many C words that I find related to, mindfulness. It helps us be more connected and helps us to get to a new level of consciousness of what happens. And from there, we can create. There are many, many few other C words that we can bring. But one of the applications that I thought about what you're saying, yesterday I had a difficult conversation with a founder that I advised to. And he said something and then he changed it. And I'm taking it as an example that sometimes as leaders, as managers, and as CEOs, we need to manage difficult and complicated and complex conversations that is something to which we usually don't feel comfortable of doing. And also we're not experienced enough in doing it. And in this conversation that I knew I'm right, but not because I knew I'm right. I was really right, and he also said it. It was like speaking in two levels. One of what is going on here in the conversation between us, and the other one is of the bigger or greater Gali and him, I won't mention his name, and how we look at the situation from the outside, from an external point of view, and seeing what's happening there. Like, be very, very present. And I think that when you create this deeper level of listening, that when the other speaks, you really listen to what he has to say, and you're not immediately focused on just pushing it away, but you're really listening to it. And then later on, you think how you want to respond to it and to digest what the other said, and not just necessarily to say it's not true. Then, although it was a complicated situation and conversation, we really felt that we love each other and that we understand each other's point of view. And it was a good conversation. It was a complicated one, but a good one. And I think that this is also one of the ways for us, for managers, for leaders, to hold complicated conversation, which is something that I see founders really, really struggling with. And it can go either if you want to create a better product meeting and to give feedback, or it also go to a more complicated situation when you need to fire someone. Mm-hmm. And it's not a good thing, right, to other one of the sites, but there is a way to convey this message in a different way. So this is like one thing that I think that practicing mindfulness really, really helps you in holding this kind of conversation. The other thing I wanted to say, I remember that when I never breathe. I used to breathe through my nose, only through my mouth, since I was a child. And only at the age of 30, when I started to practice yoga, I really learned how to do it. And later on, when I started to practice mindfulness and meditation, at the beginning, I remember all the time I judged myself. Gali, but you're disconnected. Or Gali, now this thought came into your mind. So you're not mindful. I was criticizing myself about my ability to meditate or to do mindfulness. And the whole purpose was to try and lower this voice, right? But all the time I was so much in control to succeed in this. And I think that this is really something beautiful that you said, Kodem, in your conversation with this client, that you're asking questions in order to manage the control and not to feel without control. And he was being silent and quiet. This was his way to manage the control. And I, during practicing mindfulness and meditation, was thinking about, am I succeeding in this or not? This was my way to manage my control, to control my control, actually. And I think that being aware of it, that it happens, and slowly, to let go of our need in control all the time, really helps us to be more connected to what actually happens, because we want to control the situation, but sometimes we're too busy in controlling the control instead of really being in what happens. And when you understand it, and it's a little bit higher level of consciousness, it helps you to be less criticizing. First of all, towards yourself, and later on, also towards your environment.
Wow, so you said a lot of amazing things. I want to connect to say three things. First of all, let's continue with the meditation, okay? So when I facilitate the courses and retreats, this is actually a question that comes up. How do I know that I'm meditating correctly? And I always say there's not correctly. The fact that you are meditating, you succeeded. It doesn't matter how you do it. And yes, we tend to ask ourselves, okay, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? The fact, let's give you a tip how to meditate and know that you are doing it right. And this is actually the practice, right? Like the focus meditation is, think you are in a high mountain, standing on a high mountain.
Wait, are we meditating now?
Do you want to feel it?
Yeah, I want to feel it. Can you give us like 1-2 minutes of really pure experience of meditating live on the?
Yes, great. And then I will have the answer to that.
Go ahead.
Amazing thing that
I'm here. I'm following your orders.
Okay, great. So
guidance.
Think about the fact that you are on a high mountain, right? And clouds are coming in. So you feel the cloud, you will be immersed in the cloud, and then it will go away, right? You can't be attached to the cloud. So the cloud is a metaphor for our thoughts, right? In the focus meditation, we'll put our attention on our breath. Once we'll do it, the thought will come, the wandering mind will come. So the invitation is to see the thought as a cloud, to let it go, let it be, let it go. And bring our attention back to the here and now till the next thought that will come. This is actually the practice. And this is actually what's create the agility of the mind. Okay, this practice. So this is the focus meditation.
Like to focus on the clouds that come and go?
To focus on your breath. And then we'll see. I will facilitate the meditation, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
I should have brought my gong.
Gong. Nia, put a gong. Gong.
Okay, so take a deep breath through your nose and take it out through your mouth. Take a few more breaths. Now feel your body sits well on the chair. Feel the groundness of your body. Feel your foot touching the ground. Feel your shoulders, your hands. And slowly bring your attention to your breath. See if you can feel the intensity of your breath. If you catch yourself in a thought, see the thought, give it a place, and gently let it go. And bring back your attention to your breath, to the here and now. Maybe you caught yourself in another thought, and that's okay. See the thought, give it a place. Take a deep breath and let it go. And slowly bring your attention here to your body, to the present moment. Now you can take a deep breath. Bring your attention back to your eyes. And when you're ready, you're invited to open your eyes, to bring your attention back to the here and now.
Wow, thank you for that. I needed it.
It's a pleasure. So, it's like a transition meditation that you see it was like 2 or 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do it between meetings, and then you can really come fresh to the other meeting. And only letting go of the thoughts and not judging ourselves. And as you said, as we're practicing more mindfulness, we're more accepting of ourselves and we are less criticizing ourselves. Because as we said, our brain is acquired to judge ourselves, right? Judgment is the opposite of compassion. And as we practice more mindfulness, we are more compassionate toward ourselves, first of all, and then we can be compassionate toward others. I always said, it begins with ourselves. Okay, I can't be compassionate toward other person if I'm not compassionate toward myself. If I'm self-criticizing myself all day long, no way I will have an employee that I won't criticize, because this is the glasses I see in the world, okay?
And it also, if I may disturb you for a second, it really impacts our language. The reason I needed this meditation now is because I was running here from other meeting, and I sat with 3 founders that I really like, and the language that they chose to speak to each other was it wasn't compassionate, let's say. Okay, it was very aggressive, not very, but aggressive, somehow aggressive, and I really stopped them about it because one of them said, "But he's used to me talking to him like that," and I said, "Okay, he's used. It doesn't mean that he likes it, and it's good for him, and it gives him the right nurturing environment in order to grow and to create." And it's really that place that sometimes we think about mindfulness. Oh, but I didn't have time this morning, or maybe just in the evening. But no, we can even stop during the day for 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, no more than this, between sessions, between meetings, once we feel that we're overwhelmed or tired or ran out of energy, and just take ourselves to the terrace, to a meeting room, to the kitchen, doesn't matter where, even to go out to the street for a second, just to breathe. Like the breathing is the anchor of the mindfulness, and it's always with us. And I can say firsthand that I think that for 30 years, I did not know how to breathe. I did not know how to use my breath as something that can help me be a bit more relaxed. I will never be too relaxed. It's not who I am, but
good. You have good energy.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also tiring, And to use, I know, we got each other, but to use the breath as an anchor and to allow ourselves. And this is the thing, because we work with founders and with high-tech people, and their need to keep up the performance and to work quickly all the time and to be good and to be quick, it's really demanding. And it's like sometimes we don't allow ourselves to just stop it for a second. Why? Because what will happen? I think that if I'll stop, then X will happen. And if I'll stop, then Y will happen. But first of all, it's not true. And it's just this loop of thoughts that we have in our mind. And starting to practice the mindfulness in really, really small bites, really, really small steps. 2 minutes, 3 minutes can help us see that, okay, we stopped for 2-3 minutes of meditation and nothing happened. And we feel a bit more relaxed. And our blood pressure is a bit lower, not too low, just a bit lower. And our heartbeat is a little bit more calm. And we feel like more refreshed. And this is really, really good. I do want to say another thing. Sorry for taking over your notes. Is that mindfulness, to me, it doesn't have to be that way. For example, driving today into one of my meetings, I was still very, I thought about my yesterday complicated conversation that I had. It was still in me.
Alive.
And yeah, it was alive in me. And I couldn't let it go because I had many thoughts about it. It took me to many different directions and how I acted, the decisions that I made and the decisions that he made. And I was analyzing it the way I do usually. And then I heard Keren Tsuk in Spotify, and all of a sudden there was a song, one of the remake that she made with Rami Kleinstein. It doesn't matter. A song that I remember from the age that I was, 14, 15, and all of a sudden, being 40, I heard it in a remake, Al Gesher Hayeshan. And it was so exciting for me, and I put the volume so strong, and I was singing, like no one could hear it, but I was singing and I thought that all the cars next to me in Ayalon are looking at me, who is this happy girl? What she's singing about? Why is she so happy? You know what? And I felt how in a second, my mind and my mood changed from being very, very distracted about it to being very happy. And I felt my body more relaxed. And this is also something that for me is meditative and being mindful to the moment and to allow myself to feel better through music.
And this is amazing because what you did, actually, you usually in the stories that we are telling ourselves in the mind, right? In the wandering mind, and then we don't let go and we caught up in the stories. And what you did in a split of a moment, you connected to your body. And this is what I invite people during my course and retreats. I tell them, okay, think about something, let it go, and now see how you feel it in your body, in the sensation, in the feelings, and you have more wisdom in your body. So you actually let go of the thought, of the disrupting thought that didn't bring you anywhere, right? You were only feeling stuck and angry. You fed the anger within you. And once you let it go, you created space for more emotions to be there. So you can also feel angry, but you can feel also happy and joyful in the same time. And you created space for yourself and other emotions.
Let's focus on this for a second. From your experience, and you said it really in the correct way. Why are we stuck on this anger and on this loop of thoughts? What it serves for us?
Actually, it doesn't serve anything, but it's an automatic behavior.
Allegedly, it serves something because we keep on doing it as a mechanism, right? Being stuck in this loop of thoughts.
I think, again, it's the surviving mode is working with our mind. 90% of our reality we live in through our mind.
And interpretations of what happens.
But there's much more than our mind. There are feelings, our sensations, our emotions, our smell. So this is what we need to learn to do, to give space to the complete self or experience of ourselves. And once we do it, we have more wisdom to make better decisions and lead. Yeah. And I do want to come back to the communication because it's crucial what I found. And it connects to what I found in my research, in my PhD. I conducted a case study in a high-tech company for my PhD about the mindful leadership. And I found that a central tool for leaders nowadays to lead creative and innovative companies, I call it a dialogue space. And what does it mean? It means, first of all, creating space, okay? Creating space to show up fully. Come into a conversation with an open mind, open heart, and open will. Coming present and bringing my vulnerability and my viewpoint. And I don't need to show that I know the answers. I can maintain the uncertainty. And as a leader, as a manager, I can come to my team and tell them, you see, this is the product that we are working on. I don't know to say what's the right way. I only know to say that something doesn't feel right, okay? Because I talked with this client and something doesn't resonate well, I don't know what's not. What do you think? So what I'm doing? I'm showing up fully. I don't play a game that I have a coherent identity. I have the answers because I don't. And I'm inviting and giving legitimation to others to be present with their experience, with their viewpoint, and respecting each other for not knowing the answer and figuring it out. So I'm creating space to really bring our complete experience. And from creating this space without pushing it away and respecting each other, something new can emerge. A creative solution can emerge and much more accurate than what we tried to figure out before. So it's all about creating space. And, there's a lot of research that show that once you put timeline or deadlines on creativity, it won't happen because people will be constructed and won't be able to be creative. But once you open a meeting and telling in advance, this is a tip I give my managers that I'm working with. If you have time to explore about something, tell your team that you don't want to get to a solution in the end of this meeting. Create the space and pressure. Let them be present. And in paradoxical way,
it happens.
It happens because they have the time, they have the space. And see, I'm saying repeatedly the power of space because it's all about space. We started the conversation by creating space for ourselves, for others, for the unknown, and handling it. And you need to dare to show up fully and hold the uncertainty, not close it. Because what we do usually, we don't like to be in this area of uncertainty, right? So we're figuring out a quick solution, but it's not the accurate one.
I totally agree with you, and I may take the same perspective and direction, but not all the people we work with that exist have the same mindset or can see things or in a deeper way that you and I speak about. And from place of uncertainty or need to control or need to figure out things because otherwise they feel uncertain, they will not necessarily see eye to eye the idea of let's give it space because, their communication style is different and their managerial style is different. And they want the bottom line, and they want it very, very direct, and they want the tachlis. And they will not, there are different types of people, and not everyone are as open to, this kind of methodologies and to embracing it. So how do you find yourself helping those kind of managers to be more exposed and open to integrate mindful leadership into their day-to-day?
So I want to go back to your question before about the communication, because I really believe that we need to change, and we're changing now the way we communicate, because usually we communicate from our mind, from our head. This is actually also what I found in my research. And there's a much more complete communication because there's another layer of the emotional state, right? What I'm feeling right now, when we usually don't feel it. Beyond it, we even don't understand what we are feeling. So it's also a challenge. So I teach them a new language. First of all, speak your rational, but not only rational, but also the emotional part. So I can say, Yossi, I see that you are really stressed out about this situation because it's really important to you because you really wanted to deliver it on time. However, I feel a little bit frustrated because I tried reaching out and you didn't respond to me. So now that we understand what you felt and how you see this situation and how I'm feeling, I'm seeing it, let's create space for the option that we can deal with. What are our options that we have here to figure out the right solution? So what did I do? I created a full communication, given the rational layer place and also the emotional, because we usually don't give the emotional. And at the end of the day, the emotional, it's much more crucial than the rational, right? Because once you tell your employee, look, I see you're struggling. How can I be here for you? Believe me, first of all, he will feel amazed that you see him, and will be a lot. And afterward, you see, by asking him how you can be there for him, he will bring the answer. So we don't need always to be in the doing mode and to push everything. We need to learn. So I teach them to connect to the inner world, to the
But
feelings.
I agree. And I do the same.
Okay.
I practice myself the same. But sometimes you work with people and I see many, many founders that they are having a challenge to embrace this mindset because they are not used to speak the emotional language.
That's right.
And there's a very big gap for them to learn how to use their emotional language. Sometimes it can be from things that they've been through in their childhood or their relationships that they had, but it's not their natural language. And it's very difficult for them to do this. So how do you overcome those challenges? Because at the end, not everyone, although we support it, not everyone can embrace it. And also there are many, many managers that are being cynical about it. So it may be not my style and maybe not your style and method, etc. But the fact is that there are many managers that do behave that way.
Yes, but you know what you said before, that you reflected to this manager and told him, okay, maybe this is the way you act, but it's not for sure a pleasant thing for him. you put a question mark, right? And maybe you need to reflect upon the way you act. So, I see it as what does it mean to be a leader? To change patterns. And yes, I worked with the co-founders, and I gave one of them this tool, actually, how to communicate mindfully and completely. And they were in a conflict, and then his co-founder came to him to the room, and he started talking with this, model, and he came to me back and said, I started talking with him, to my co-founder with this model, and he looked at me and went out of the room. And I said, okay, that's great, because he didn't understand what your language, he doesn't know it yet, but you implementing a
something moved there. There was a movement.
Yeah, you implemented a new language. That's okay. This is what you mean, really a leader. So you need to bring yourself. I believe that it's enough self-management, is leading by example. You will show up fully. You will be vulnerable. You will share your feelings, and you can say that you see how they feel. They won't argue with you. Maybe they won't be able to implement it immediately, but something will resonate. It's like, throwing a stone, it makes ripples. So this is actually what I do when I work with corporates. I facilitate the courses, and then they start a new language. And they also say, okay, but it's not a common language here in the corporates. They say, okay, you're the leaders.
And change it.
Yes, you
change
will
the conversation.
Yes, you will start talking differently. And so this is how I see it.
I want to emphasize 3 things and to elaborate a little bit. First thing, and we mentioned it in the past in the podcast, you don't have to embrace this mindset, but nowadays employees, they want it, and they speak a different language, and they simply won't stay if they don't feel that their managers and leaders don't speak the language that makes them feel more comfort, more confident, more valued.
More seen, I think, seen.
Yeah.
They want really to be seen.
Yeah, to be seen, exactly. So this is a very practical thing. You need to be able to more embrace this mindset. This is the one thing. Second, there are 2 communication tools that I use to teach my founders, and I'm going to share it with you now, which I find them very, very, very practical. I'll even begin with the second one, which is the first one. I like to call it the brief communication. It's like when you used to work with advertisement companies, and you used to give them a brief, like something very, very short, that they know what to do now and how to develop the content and the creative. So, for example, I just came for a meeting now with 3 founders, and we spoke with the CTO about a problem that happens in that development team. Very practical. And he was very frustrated because he said we started to do root cause analysis, and he saw that every time they get to the 75% of completing the skill, all of a sudden he is finding out that they are not in the right direction, that they are not working on what they have defined, and that they're not going to meet the deadline with what they needed. And then we started to understand why it happens. And what we found there is that in Hebrew, there's this, in law, you speak about kibul in commercial law. It means that someone else really understood what you're saying and accepted it, okay? And really embraced it into himself. And what I explained to this CTO when we spoke is that, okay, you said what your expectations are and you described it, but you didn't even make sure that he or she, the team, really understood what you want from them, that they understood the deliverables, and that they have accepted it on them. You didn't make this reflection and making sure that it happened. And then I told him, listen, you want to try and create the communication with your team in the following way. If you have now some kind of team meeting, so you put it in the calendar, and then the meeting should have 4 components. One is to have the title, what we're going to talk about, right? Second one is to have all the details. I want to do this feature and go that place or go to that go-to-market. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. Third thing is the deliverables. I'm expecting to get 1, 2, 3 by that date or that time or within 2 weeks, or doesn't matter. And the fourth part is the reflection.
What did you hear him saying?
What did you understand from what he's saying? And then you can understand if Keren really understood me, or that I was talking in a language that wasn't clear to them, was too fast maybe, was with words that they didn't see, maybe they didn't understand the task, but then I can understand what they got. And then there are more chances that I won't get to the 80% development, and only then understand that they never understood what I want from them. So this is what I like to call the brief communication, and I think that it's really, really relevant to every phase, and even if it's in the marketing department, the engineering department, in the operation, doesn't matter, to make sure that you're very structured and that the other side really understood what you're talking about. So this is one thing. I'm taking a breath. The second thing, I like to call it clearing. There are many methods to do clearing, but basically the way I see it, you just need to finalize each conversation, each dialogue, like I said, this space that we're creating, in 3 very simple questions. The first one is, what worked for you and you want to maintain? The second one is, what didn't work for you and you want to change? It also helps you to take responsibility of the situation and to be proactive, and not just to say it didn't work, but how do you want to do it differently? And the third question is, how do you feel? And then it allows you to raise this awareness of feelings into a managerial day-to-day, and it really creates a space and makes it very, very a standard already to finish our conversation is, let's make disclosure. Let's understand what worked well in our conversation, what didn't work well, and how do we feel about it. And that creates a new language. And at the beginning, it may be a little bit awkward, but as when you practice it, like the mindfulness, it's all about a muscle that we need to strengthen. Like in the gym, right? It takes time. It's a mindset and a muscle that we need to strengthen. And I really hope that you will take those 2 methods and implement it into your startup or a company or whichever organization you are, day-to-day life. That's it.
Great. I love it. And yes, it's about seeing the other person and seeing where he is. Did it resonate with him? What did he get from what I say? Usually, sometimes I say something that I think I have an assumption that he needs to understand, but actually don't understand. And you know what I also figure out? That a lot of people don't feel comfortable saying that they don't understand. So you can sit in a meeting, nobody understands, but nobody have the courage to say, oh, can I have ask a question? What did you mean by that? I didn't understand. And once you do it, you see that nobody understood, but you were the courageous person who did it, right? So it's also to change the culture and say, okay, it's okay not to know the answer. It's okay to have questions. It's okay not to understand. And this is, by creating a culture that inviting people to show up fully, to be complete, not be coherent with their identity. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fall. The growth mindset, we all need it right now. And we need to create cultures that nourish this part within ourselves.
I agree. I wanted to add another point. You spoke earlier about the deadlines, for example. And I want to elaborate a little bit about it, that I'm usually I work with deadlines, and I'm very organized in that manner, and I think it's important in order to progress. But, and it's an important but, as leaders, like you said, what's expected from us is to change patterns and to think creatively and to find solutions to something that others didn't find. And that things are based on creativity. And when it's connected to creativity, sometimes putting those deadlines can kill the creativity. And as much as I'm very organized person and I live with my calendar, and every day I'm auditing it and I'm checking myself and I'm really maintaining to do many, many things because I'm very, very
Control freaks now.
Yeah, a little bit. Not stand. No, a little bit. But I'm very addicted to my calendar. I can say it that way because it helps me. When I'm getting to my creative parts, for example, writing my book, or thinking about a podcast, or creating new things or offsites or things like that, in those areas, I don't put myself a deadline. I'm trying to clear my schedule for at least half a day or several hours. I try to make sure that I have at least one bulk like this, one slot like this in the week, minimum one, because then the creativity can come out. And you need to it's a little bit, aside from mindfulness, it goes to flow. It's like connected. Yeah. It's intertwined. Because only then you can allow the flow to come out and to really feel that you're now like melting into something that you can really discover and be passionate about and be curious about, and not minding the time. And then the creativity can come. And I think this is also something important, that with all the stress and all the need to deliver, also to allow ourselves some percent of creativity, about strategic thinking, about where we're going, about our dreams, both in business and life, because it nurtures and helps us be better leaders.
Actually, what you said resonates with my vision. My vision at the end of the day, by bringing the mindfulness tools to the leaders and mindful leadership, is enabling each and every one to be in the state mind, right? To invest minimum effort and gain maximum results. And I found that characteristics of the new leadership is the ability to hold tensions. And the crucial tension is between the being mode and the doing mode, right? Because we as leaders and managers, we are used to be busy, be in the doing mode, having the right resource. But the new theories talked about the ability of the leaders and individuals to pause, to stop, to reflect, to listen, and then work from this place of being. And then we are much more accurate and fine-tune our products, our process, and we are much more creative. So I really believe in this, actually, the tools I bring to organization nowadays, to ability to pause a little bit. So, when I can offer leaders, managers to put in their diary 30 minutes meeting with themselves, sitting in front of the sea, listening to the waves, creating this space for creativity to arise. And another tool is journaling. This tool is amazing.
Of course.
You take a notebook, start writing whatever comes to your mind. And then you also can get to your subconscious and sometimes get things out of your mind and come fresh to the next meeting. Or sometimes creative thoughts are arising. So writing intuitively for 10 minutes every day, it really nourishes creativity.
And I want to add to it, to the cynical people that are listening. And there are many, many founders, and I love them very much, but their mindset is much more cynical. And they say, "Oh, Gali, Keren, what are you bullshitting? And who has the time to go to the beach, do journaling, etc., etc." So I really want to be very, very practical. Because if I go back to the conversation I just described with the CTO about his engineering team and how inefficient it was, because the time that he spent at the end to understanding and analyzing what didn't work, and it took hours and energy and time and delays at the end. So if he would be more mindful in the beginning and inserting those points of checkups, of making sure that his team is following him, if he would embrace this mindset of being more mindful to what happens in the beginning, it would actually save him time at the end. And I think that one of the most practical aspects of bringing mindfulness into managing, into leadership, the way I see it, you said it in the beginning, is the self-management. And crucial part of self-management, to my opinion, is prioritizing. What do we want to do? What do we want to delegate? What do we want to schedule next? What do we want to delete, to drop? And it's a muscle that we have to strengthen. And part of understanding that being a leader and being a founder, we cannot have it all, and we cannot do it all. In many things we will drop. Why? Because they are not in high priority, and they are not the thing that will move the needle. And this is okay. And I think that also prioritizing ourselves and our well-being as founders is really important. And this is the thing, because I see so many of my founders and other founders that I'm in touch with not prioritizing themselves. Now, prioritizing yourself does not mean that you go now for 1 month and disappearing. Maybe also this, but
the well-being,
to make sure that you're healthy, that you eat well, that you sleep well, that you breathe between meetings, that you think a second before you correspond to your team, etc. It's very, very crucial to prioritize your well-being and your wellness. And only that you can be more effective in the way that you lead. And sometimes pausing and stopping and also dropping things because they're not the crucial part, and also learning how to say no to many, many things. This is part of being mindful to ourselves.
That's for sure. Mindfulness at the end of the day increases our productivity, our efficiency, our resilience, a lot of things. And I couldn't agree more that we need to listen to ourselves and give ourselves time and nourish our inner world. Because if you get to a point that you are burdened and you are stressed out and you're in anxiety, you won't be able to lead your company. So it's really crucial because as you put fuel in the car, we need to fuel ourselves, right?
And we don't want to get to the breaking point that
No.
from there it's a slippery slope and everything goes bad. So we
Yeah.
want to prevent it and to maintain and to take care of our body and our leadership capacity. Let's also mention that mindfulness is one of the methods that was scientifically approved,
Mhm.
also to helping in people that have a serious disease and that help them with
Chronic pain,
Yeah.
anxiety, stress. Yes, the MBSR, actually,
Mhm.
Dr. John Kabat-Zinn created a mindfulness-based stress reduction that helps decrease anxiety, stress, and chronic pain. And there are more than 6,000 scientific academic research that show that mindfulness increases our wellness, our happiness, and our health, and create neuroplasticity. Actually, what we need nowadays in order to be agile and change. So there's a lot of research back up of mindfulness that show that we should embrace it. And as Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, if till now it was a vitamin, now it's a crucial element. And another saying that goes that if you don't have 20 minutes to meditate, find 1 hour to meditate. So I really invite people to find even 5 minutes or 3 minutes during the day. It can be after lunch to take a few breaths, to go out to nature. Find this transition meditation, and then you will be much more productive and efficient and present.
Wow, Keren, we have so many things to discuss and we can continue more and more. And I feel that we only covered, the tip of the iceberg because really we can go much deeper. But one of the methods of mindfulness is one thing, right? One thing that you take with you.
Mhm.
And I really hope that each and every one of our listeners just took one thing to embrace in his or her day-to-day routine. And if it is the breathing or the meditation, or to be a better listener, or to be more present, or to write journaling, to do journaling, or to prioritize differently, prioritize ourselves. And I really think and believe that if each and every one of us will prioritize a little bit better him, herself, and also the people around him by listening and by really being mindful with them, so we'll create a better companies and a better society, and things will look different a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you.
So really thank you, Keren, for coming here today and sharing all this knowledge. For people who want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, Keren Tsuk, TSUK, on my website, wisdomtolead.co, and on Facebook and social media.
Great. Thank you so much, Keren.
Thank you very much.
To our lovely listeners, we're going to hit pause until the next episode. That's also something I say to the entrepreneurs in my clinic in between sessions. If you enjoyed listening, I would really appreciate it if you share the podcast with people who you think would derive value from it. Thanks to the amazing studios at Google for Startups, and to Neil and to Yuval and to the whole team. Feel free to visit my website at galiblochliran.com and leave your details there if you wish to be updated and learn more about the mental aspects of the entrepreneurial journey. Also, be sure to follow my podcast, The Human Founder, in any of your podcast apps, and please rate it and please write some comments so that it will rise to the top so you will continue to hear this really, really important content. Thank you. Let's hit pause. Till next time. Bye, Keren.
Bye. Thank you very much.